Welcome to NBA Today on YouTube. This is where we give you the exclusive extra bits of reporting behind the scenes that you cannot find anywhere else. And last night, my friends, Richard Jefferson, Chiney Ogwumike, Adrian Wojnarowski, we finally got to see some preseason action that we have all been waiting for. The matchup of the season so far, Victor Wembanyama versus Chet Holmgren. One of us, though, was there, and that was our Brian Windhorst. So, Brian, what did you see last night that got you so excited about this game?
Malika, I had to calm myself down. I had to say this is October. This is a Monday night in Oklahoma City. People are still thinking about football. I have not had so much fun at a preseason game in my 21-year career covering the NBA.
Wow.
Watching Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren come to life. We have been waiting for these guys for years. And those two guys especially, they've been circling each other for years. You have to understand, these guys have been grouped together and seen as the next big thing, these two freaks of nature. We've never seen anybody this tall, this skilled. They've been circling each other for years. Probably the most consequential game of Victor Wembanyama's career was in the World Under-19 Championships in 2021, where he lost to Chet Holmgren. He still is not over that, and Team USA in the gold medal match. These two guys absolutely want to have a rivalry against each other, and they went at each other this entire game. They did it within the construct of the team. It wasn't a one-on-one matchup, but they went at each other, and they looked at each other out the side of their eyes. And when I looked down at that end of that first half, when Chet Holmgren had 19 points and 9 rebounds, and Victor had a bunch of steals and blocks and 18 points of his own in their first halves in uniform, when they're basically still teenagers, I saw a lot of excitement. I saw a little twinkle in the old Hall of Famer's eyes over there on the Spurs bench, and I saw some smiles over there in the Oklahoma City section. This is potentially the beginning of something special, not only for the two of them individually, but the two of them head-to-head.
See, these guys were teasing me earlier when I said I was texting with Brian Windhorst, and after texting with him, I had so much FOMO for not being at that game. If you guys are not hyped after listening to Brian break that down, then I do not know what's going to get you excited. Richard, your takeaway, please, sir.
No, I loved it. I think both of these guys are studs. They're future stars. I've spent a small amount of time with Chet Holmgren just in passing at the draft and in different places, and it's like he's got an intensity and a dog and a look in his eye. So when you get a guy like that that's like, oh, wait, you think that there's a better version of me, or I've already bettered him in under 19, there's a competitiveness that you see from Chet. I don't know about that from Victor yet. I believe that he is that dude because he has all of the talent and all of the skills, and he's mature beyond his years, as everyone says. But I do know that both of these guys seem like they're uber talented and they have some dog in them. That is a clash that is going to be meeting for a long time.
Yeah, these are certainly two highly competitive players. And you talk to people in San Antonio who now have been around Victor Wembanyama for a few months, from working out in the summer into training camp. They will tell you that you see 2 or 3 things every day from Victor that you have never seen another basketball player do on the floor because of his size, his skill, and that's on both ends of the court. And you knew this about him when he was 14, 15, 16 years old, about how he was developed in all the ways and all the parts of the game that he's worked on. And, you know, it was noticeable in San Antonio when he'd come in the gym for his off-season workouts. A lot of players that age, they come in, I'm going to work on my shot. I'm going to work on my offense. And he'd come in, you know, very intentional every day. I'm coming in to work on my defense. I'm coming in to work on my passing and my shooting. And that's rare for a player his age.
Yeah, I think watching this preseason game, we all felt like this was a new era in the NBA, because not too long ago, let's say 2 decades ago, it was just a few stars that had to shoulder the load of carrying the league forward. Now we have stars in many places, but this right here is the peak of positionless basketball. This right here is 2 different pathways, and I'm talking about Chet and Victor. One goes to college university, one is overseas in France. They're both arriving on the same timeline, doing it from scratch, and showing the world that there is no skill set left unturned. This is wild. And they got that dog in them, as Richard said.
Yes,
literally, this is exactly what basketball fans want. They delivered in the preseason, and now I'm going to be so excited because the next few years we'll look back on these moments and say it started right now where this change happened.
You know, this league does need a young player to carry the mantle. That player's not there. LeBron, there's 2 players who, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, are incredible players. but there's certainly with LeBron James and Steph Curry who drive TV ratings and jerseys and all those things. And, you know, you have, again, in Milwaukee and Denver, two players in their prime who've won multiple MVPs, who will start playing their way out of their prime in the next 5-6 years. The league needs Victor Wembanyama. They need Chet Holmgren to be players that are transcendent. And certainly this has been a great traditional rivalry in Oklahoma City and San Antonio. You think back to these were two teams in the West competing for championships, and you can start to see the outline now. And I think team-wise, Oklahoma City, I think there are 4 potential All-Stars in that lineup down the road. And maybe Holmgren's a potential MVP candidate, certainly.
Very, very interesting. Brett, where do you see the future of this rivalry going?
So when you look at Oklahoma City, they are so deep and they've got so much potential to do stuff with that roster. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a #1 now. He's a top 10 player in this league. You could argue about even higher, and he's ready to go right now. And when you look at the 2022 Oklahoma City Thunder draft class, this is a moment that could change the course of the league. When I'm out there last night watching Jalen Williams throw lobs to Chet Holmgren, the Thunder had like 6 lob dunks all of last season. In the first quarter, Jalen Williams comes down, throws a lob. Chet Holmgren basically catches it on the way down, spikes it through the basket. That's a dynamic they didn't have. Those are the guys in the 2022 draft class. By the way, there are others, their second-round pick in that class, Jalen Williams, the big man, he's an excellent player off the bench. You combine those two guys with a full-bloom Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this team is ready to go. They're ready to be a contender right now. Josh Giddey is coming along as well, and they've got that full portfolio of draft picks. This is definitely a team to pay attention to, and I am all in on Victor Wembanyama. You guys know how much I've spent, getting to know him, getting to know his family, going over to Europe a couple of times. It was extremely rewarding for me to see him play so well in his opening game. But I'm telling you, Chet had him by this much last night. And Chet knew it when he left the arena. He had the look on his face. And I do not overlook Chet Holmgren. This guy, he doesn't have the hype of Victor, but he's right there with him.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to that draft, and, there was a lot of, with Paolo Banchero and Chet Holmgren at the top, and there were a lot of questions about who would go #1. I think for Oklahoma City, always. Now, they ended up with the number 2 pick, but Chet Holmgren was always their guy. That was a player that Sam Presti had targeted, and they had the ability, obviously, to be able to take him. But certainly, Brian's right. This is an Oklahoma City team that has an infrastructure of talent. He's right about SGA. He is a superstar in this league right now. But not only do they have such a deep reservoir of young talent, they have all those picks still. That if they want to go out and do a big trade, they just have a lot of options. But they can grow with this core. And you talk to people in OKC, and they see the physical development of Josh Giddey a year later, Jalen Williams. This is a really talented group.
The assets are there. We should be keeping an eye on Oklahoma City, that is for sure. Right now, Brian, Victor Wembanyama has the best odds to win Rookie of the Year. That's not to say that he will, but that's what odd makers are saying. What do you say? Who is your leading candidate for Rookie of the Year?
Well, I'm a big believer in Victor. I think he can do it. But if you can get Chet Holmgren at a plus number, that wouldn't be a bad bet either.
For me, it's most likely Chet Holmgren. Look, he does have an advantage because he was there in OKC for a year. But I will say this. I think Chet Holmgren is a scorer that knows how to play basketball. And I think that Victor is a basketball player that knows how to score. They both do things defensively. They are both aliens. Victor's a little bit bigger. So my point in this is I think Chet Holmgren, even with Shai on his team, is going to be a very aggressive scorer. He's a matchup problem. Where I think Victor is still learning the game, learning his team, learning the system. So I think I'm going to give that slight edge to Chet Holmgren for Rookie of the Year.
I like how we're using alien as out of this world. That's how talented they are. I'm going to go with Victor. I like that. I'm going to go with Victor just because he touches so many different aspects of the game. Richard, in our show, you really displayed how he can get beat on defense and still be the best defender on the floor.
So can Chet.
Okay, true, but it's different when you're 7'4". I agree, it's not the same. So I think the totality of Victor's game may lend to his benefit.
Not to mention that Chet Holmgren, he's going to be playing really within a system and a team that is trying to make some noise in the playoffs this season. And we are still kind of waiting to see what the team around Victor Wembanyama is going to be looking like. That development, that could potentially impact who we see walking away with Rookie of the Year. All right, that is going to do it for us for NBA Today on YouTube. We will see you with more exclusive content coming up soon.